Good morning everyone. I thought that I would continue with reading Jeremy Strong, 100 Mile an Hour Dog, and now we're on to chapter 5. Hopefully you'll be able to see some of my fish in the background as well. Chapter 5. Tina seemed to think that dog training was dead easy. It's the same for any animal, she declared. Dad taught me this special technique. It's called behaviour modification. I have to admit, I was impressed. It sounded as if Tina knew what she was talking about. Mind you, Tina always sounded as if she knew what she was talking about. I should really have been suspicious, but instead I listened to her and really thought success with Streaker was just around the corner. It turned out that Tina's amazing dog training technique involved using an entire packet of dog biscuits to try and bribe Streaker. By the time Tina had finished shouting and waving her arms, there were no biscuits left, and Streaker did not sit down or come to heel once, or stay anywhere that we asked her. In fact, she hadn't done anything except become so fat that her stomach was now similar to the size of a hot air balloon. Mum wasn't too pleased either when she discovered that the full packet of dog biscuits had been scoffed in one afternoon. "That's £5 you owe me, Trevor. I'll take it out of the money I'm supposed to pay you at the end of the holiday." This was brilliant progress. I scowled at Tina. Great. So much for behaviour modification. It's their first day of training and I'm already owing money to Mum. "You did ask for my help," Tina pointed out. "If you're so clever, you can work out a plan for yourself." And she left in a huff. I didn't see Tina for a couple of days after that, which was probably just as well. I was a bit fed up about the dog biscuits. Anyhow, most of my time was taken up walking the dog. Some of you may be wondering why I didn't just keep Streaker on a lead the whole time. Well, if you've got half a brain, you'll realise that if I'd kept Streaker on a lead, then one of two things would have happened. Either both of my arms would have been stretched until they were half a mile long, or I wouldn't have any arms at all, because they would have both been pulled out of their sockets. Streaker would be rushing around wildly, trailing a dog lead with two arms clattering about on the end, all by themselves, and that wouldn't be very nice. The one good thing about spending hours waiting for Streaker to come back to me was that it gave me lots of time to think. I decided that one of the reasons why Streaker didn't come when she was called was quite simply because she couldn't hear me. She was too far away. It was like trying to tell someone in Tibet that their breakfast was getting cold. I began to wonder how you could contact someone in Tibet. You could phone them if they had a phone. You could fax them if they had a fax. And then, kapow! This brilliant idea burst into my head like 100 firework displays all going off at once. Dad had 2 mobile phones at home and a fax machine. Of course, I could hardly send Streaker a fax, although the idea did give me a bit of a laugh. I could just picture seeing Streaker rushing around with a fax machine tied to her back. All of a sudden, there would be a loud beep, 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 and this message would just roll out of the fax machine and dangle in front of her nose. "Streaker, come home at once. Love, Trev." No, the fax machine would be daft. But what about mobile phones? The more I thought about it, the better it got. And I set about carefully planning. I waited until Dad and Mum went off shopping, and then I seized my chance. I nabbed both mobile phones, stuffed them into rucksack, grabbed Streaker and headed for Tina's. Tina had an old pair of binoculars that I reckon would be very useful. Streaker managed to avoid the 3 lampposts this time, but for some strange reason she tried to mail herself in a postbox. She just kept leaping up and jabbing her nose in the opening. Tina wanted to know what the big plan was, but for once I was doing the organising. We reached the field. "Now what?" asked Tina. "I'm going to let Streaker go. When I need to know where she is, I'll climb a tree and find her with my binoculars." I grinned at Tina. "Any moment now, my big plan will be revealed." "Oh yeah? And what do you do then?" I opened the rucksack. Tina stared at the phones and wrinkled her nose so that all the freckles all got squished together. "What are those for?" "I'm going to switch this one and strap it to Streaker's collar. I'll use the other one to send her commands, and also I shall be able to hear where she is." "How?" asked Tina. "What's Streaker going to do? Report back to you? I suppose she's going to ring you and say, 'Woof, woof, woof. Hello, Trevor. I'm down a rabbit hole railway line. Back in 2 minutes. Woof, woof, woof.'" "You're jealous," I snapped angrily. "Just because you didn't think of it, you're supposed to be impressed." "I am," Tina went on with a huge grin. "Woof, woof. Streaker reporting. Flying at 30,000 feet and going in for my bombing run now." I had to laugh. You can never be cross with Tina for too long. We strapped one of the phones to Streaker's collar, making sure it was near one ear, and then we let her go. She seemed to think it was great fun. Tina and I climbed a tree to get a good view of the whole field and keep track of Streaker. The binoculars were excellent. We didn't see much of Streaker, but we got brilliant views of everything else. Tina turned them on the rows of the houses at the edge of the field. I can see your house and the garden, she said, steadying the binoculars on a branch. Your mum's putting the washing out to dry. I can see your underpants. Don't get too excited, you'll fall out of the tree, I warned. Tina swung the binoculars back over the field. I still can't see Streaker, she said. Hey, there's Charlie Smug walking across the field. What's he doing? I snatched the binoculars from her and focused them on Charlie. Tina was right. He was stumbling across the field, pushing, kicking and cursing an old shopping trolley with his 3 dogs all jumping around him. There was some kind of large plastic tub wobbling about in the trolley, and Charlie kept glancing around, as if he wanted to make sure he wasn't being watched. He never thought to look up the trees, of course. But what on earth could Charlie have been up to? Chapter 6. Maybe he's been shopping, I said. Don't be stupid, Trev. He lives up your road. He's hardly likely to go shopping and then drag it all the way across the field. What do you think he's doing then, I asked. Tina checked the direction in which Charlie was heading. Her voice took on an excited edge. He's going to the bath. He's heading straight for that tin bath. Look, he stopped. What's he doing? Charlie leaned over the trolley, puffing slightly. Yanking it across the field must have been hard work. Now that he'd stopped moving, I could see that it wasn't a tub in the trolley, but a large bucket with a snap-on lid. Charlie had another good look round, pulled the lid off, and carefully lifted out this bucket. He balanced it on the side of the bath. Even Tina could see all this, but she couldn't tell what was in the bucket. What's he doing? What's he doing? She repeated impatiently. Charlie made one last furtive search of the area, and then slowly he tipped the bucket forward over the water. Out slopped some very dark green, glistening thing that was slimy. Yuck. Something that looked like killer sludge from planet Squirk. Why is Charlie holding his nose? Cried Tina, and I let her have the binoculars. She was in time to see the last drag of muck from the bottom of the bucket being emptied into the Rossi bath. I don't believe it, she cried. The dirty, rotten cheese putting even more revolting stuff in there. You know what this means, don't you? Yes, I said. We're going to be very, very, very dirty when we get in that bath. Tina wasn't listening. He can't do things like that. It's cheating. This means war. I had to admire Tina. I mean, declaring war on Charlie Smug was a bit like Iceland deciding to attack America. What should we do first, I asked. Send in non-existent tanks to blast him to pieces with our non-existent missiles? Tina coloured slightly. Well, it's not fair, she grumbled. And if there's anything we can do about it, then we're going to do it. OK, I agreed. If there is anything we can do about it, we will do it. And I kept my fingers crossed in the hope that we wouldn't have anything to do at all. Call me a coward, call me a wimp if you like, but having a fight with King Smuggy Kong was not my idea of a good time. Charlie Smug and his dastardly deed were suddenly forgotten when I caught sight of Streaker in the distance and remembered my big plan. It was time to put it into action, so I handed Tina the binoculars, grabbed the second mobile phone and switched it on. My right ear was instantly filled with a swishing, crackling noise, which was Streaker careering through the long grass. Calling Streaker, return to base, I repeated. Return to base, Streaker, return to base. Tina began to splutter. She's a dog, Trev, not a fighter plane. Want to bet? Come in, Streaker. I can see her, cried Tina, peering through the binoculars at the far end of the tree. There! We're over here, I shouted into the phone. Come on, it's time to go home. Return to base. She's coming back, said Tina excitedly. My mobile phone was filled with the sound of pounding paws and grass and bushes, banging around against the dog and the phone. Hang on, Tina cried, gave a dismayed cry. Charlie's Alsatians are after her. Now what are we going to do? Sure enough, the 3 Alsatians were hot on Streaker's tail. I scrambled down the tree at breakneck speed, somehow managing to fall the last bit and land in nettles. I struggled painfully back to my feet and bam! I was immediately knocked flying by Streaker as she went charging past me, panting furiously and heading for the road. Covered in a second set of stinging nettles, I dragged myself upright again and bam! 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 The first Alsatian spun me round like an egg whisk, the second knocked me straight back into the nettles, and the third pounded across my chest as if some kind of very useful bridge and magically appeared in front of it. As if a useful bridge had magically appeared in front of it. The Alsatians carried on the chase, barking away merrily and obviously thinking the whole business had been set up just for entertainment. Meanwhile, I sat in the only clump of nettles in the world that needed a set of traffic lights. Tina dragged me out and we hurried down the road just in time to see Streaker go whizzing into somebody's front garden, closely followed by 3 slavering Alsatians. My poor streaker was trapped. You'll have to wait to find out what happens in chapter 7. Bye!